Hey guys, tonight we're diving into what it was like to live under those insanely strict Victorian social rules. Picture yourself buttoned up to the chin, every glance and word a potential scandal waiting to happen. You wake up in a chilly London bedroom, the fog pressing against the window like it's trying to sneak in and judge your nightgown. And you realize surviving a day here means playing by rules that make modern etiquette look like a free-for-all. You probably won't survive this without at least one mental corset malfunction. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Super curious where you're all listening from. So drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. Always blows my mind how people are falling asleep to this all over the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You blink awake in a dim room, the year suddenly 1850, and London sprawls outside like a smoky beast stirring from slumber. Your bed creaks under you. It's a narrow iron frame stuffed with horsehair that pokes like tiny accusations. Nothing like that plush memory foam you're used to. The air hangs heavy with coal smoke, seeping through cracks in the walls, mingling with the faint whiff of lavender from a sachet under your pillow, meant to ward off whatever Victorian nightmares lurk. A chill nips at your skin. The fire in the grate has fizzled to embers, casting flickering shadows over a bulky wardrobe and a washstand with its chipped ceramic basin. Outside, carriage wheels rumble on cobblestones. A distant vendor cries out something about fresh pies, and you feel the weight of the era settling on you like an invisible mantle. You reach for the small bell on your bedside table and give it a tentative ring. Footsteps patter up the stairs, quick, efficient, and in bustles, your maid, Eliza, already dressed in her starched uniform, cap perched perfectly. "Good morning, miss," she says with a curtsy that's more habit than warmth, her voice a soft murmur, designed not to jolt you. Without asking, she crosses to the window and draws back the heavy damask curtains, letting in a weak, sooty light that paints the room in greys. The glass is smudged with grime from the city's endless chimneys, a reminder that clean air is a luxury even the wealthy chase in vain. "Shall I help you dress?" she asks, opening the wardrobe to reveal rows of gowns that look like they could stand on their own. And here it hits you. The crash course in Victorian social rules starts with what you put on your body. Clothing isn't just fabric, it's armor in a war of propriety. You nod, and Eliza begins the ritual. First, the chemise, a long cotton shift that feels scratchy against your skin, followed by the corset. Oh, the corset. Historians note that by mid-century, these whalebone contraptions were standard for middle-class women, cinching waists to impossible sizes for that fashionable hourglass silhouette. Eliza laces it tight, pulling until your breath shortens, ribs protesting like they're in a polite rebellion. "A lady's waist should be spannable by a gentleman's hands," she mutters, yanking harder. You gasp. Modern you wants to joke that this is nature's way of saying, breathe less, impress more. But you bite your tongue. Sarcasm isn't ladylike here. Next come the petticoats, layer upon layer of stiffened fabric, building bulk below the waist. Then the crinoline, a cage of steel hoops that turns your lower half into a walking bell. Quirky tidbit. These things were so flammable that thousands of women died in fires from them catching sparks. a deadly fashion statement if ever there was one. Finally, the day dress in muted green wool, buttoned high to hide every inch of neck and wrist. God forbid a glimpse of skin. That'd be scandalous enough to whisper about for weeks. Eliza pins your hair into a severe chignon, no strands escaping, and offers gloves. Always gloves, because bare hands in public. Might as well parade in your underthings. As she dabs a touch of rosewater on your handkerchief, perfumes out, thanks to Queen Victoria deeming heavy scents vulgar, you glance at the mirror. You look composed, controlled, every bit the proper young woman. But inside, you're reeling from the rules already stacking up. How you dress dictates who you are, from class to character. Historians still argue whether these codes empowered women through subtle influence or just trapped them in literal and figurative cages. One thing's clear: step wrong, and social ruin awaits, faster than a bad tweet today. Dressed, you descend to breakfast, the house awakening around you. Servants flit like shadows, polishing silver and stoking fires, their movements a silent symphony of deference. In the dining room, your father sits at the head, buried in the Times, spectacles perched on his nose. Mother pours tea at the other end, her posture ramrod straight. No pajamas or casual chatter here. Victorians dress fully even for family meals, because appearing unkempt, unthinkable. "Good morning," you murmur, taking your seat with careful grace. Father grunts acknowledgement over his paper. A hug would be as outlandish as dancing on the table. Breakfast is hearty. Porridge, kippers, toast with marmalade, eggs poached just so. You nibble daintily. Corset rules out big bites, while Mother reminds you of the day's schedule. You have calls to make at noon, and tea with Aunt Lydia at 3. These morning calls, ironically in the afternoon, are social minefields. Exactly 15 minutes, no more, no less. Or you're rude, overstay, and you're desperate. Leave early, disinterested. It's like speed dating with a stopwatch and zero flirting allowed. As you eat, conversation tiptoes around safe topics. The weather, dismal as always, a recent church bazaar. No politics, no personal woes. Emotions stay bottled tighter than your corset. Father mentions a business associate's son back from Cambridge, his tone neutral but probing. Your cheeks warm, matchmaking's in the air, subtle as coal smoke. You respond demurely. How fortunate for him, hiding any spark of interest. Showing eagerness? That's for the lower classes, or so the rules say. After breakfast, you retreat to the parlor for improving activities, reading poetry or sketching flowers. Idle hands invite mischief after all. The room's cozy with velvet chairs and a ticking clock, but the rules loom. No novels that stir passions, lest they corrupt your mind. You pick up a volume of Wordsworth, words blurring as you ponder the day ahead. A light joke bubbles up in your thoughts. If Victorians knew about binge-watching, they'd probably time it to 15 minutes too. The morning drags, sensory details, pulling you deeper. The scratch of pen on paper as Mother writes letters. The distant chime of a clock marking time, like a stern governess. You're navigating this world where every action's scripted, from how you sip tea to whom you nod at on the street. Mainstream fact. The Victorian era saw the rise of etiquette books, such as Mrs. Beeton's, which dictated everything from mourning periods to table settings. Quirky bit. Some ladies used language of flowers to send secret messages via bouquets. Red roses for love, but yellow for jealousy. A floral Morse code for the repressed. Historians still debate whether these rules fostered order or stifled individuality, with some arguing they gave women covert power through household management. For now, you feel the squeeze, literally and figuratively. As noon approaches, Eliza fetches your bonnet and shawl. Time for those calls. Small steps out the door, but giant leaps in the dance of decorum. You adjust your gloves, steel yourself, and step into the foggy street, where carriages clatter and vendors hawk wares. The city's alive, but you're boxed in by invisible walls of propriety, each breath a calculated one. You stand in your chilly bedroom, the weak London light filtering through soot-streaked windows, as Eliza, your maid, transforms you into a proper Victorian lady. The air smells of coal dust, and the faint rosewater lingering on your handkerchief, a scent you dabbed to stay within Queen Victoria's decree that heavy perfumes are vulgar. Imagine, a whiff too strong could brand you a loose woman. Eliza's hands move with practiced efficiency, pulling the laces of your corset tighter, each tug a reminder that beauty here means sacrifice. Your ribs creak, your breath catches halfway, and you wonder if fainting is just the body's polite way of saying, enough, already. Mainstream fact, by the 1850s, corsets were a daily necessity for middle and upper-class women, shaping the ideal 18-inch waist that fashion demanded, even if it meant bruised ribs. Quirky tidbit. Some women soaked their corsets in starch to make them stiffer, turning their torsos into literal cages. Fashion's version of a straitjacket, Eliza layers on the petticoats next. 3 of them, each a rustling mass of cotton that adds weight to your hips. Then comes the crinoline, a hoop-skirt contraption of steel and whalebone that makes you look like a walking bell tower. It's absurdly wide, threatening to knock over candlesticks or small children if you turn too fast. You stifle a laugh. Modern, you wants to joke that this thing could double as a lifeboat, but Eliza's stern glance reminds you to stay composed. The dress follows, a deep burgundy wool with a fitted bodice and sleeves so tight they pinch your wrists. Every button, every seam, screams restraint. Showing an inch of skin above the collarbone would spark whispers at the next church service. Your hair's the next battleground. Eliza brushes it ruthlessly, pinning it into a chignon so tight it feels like your scalp's apologizing for existing. No loose curls allowed. Freedom in hair is as scandalous as freedom in thought. She offers you gloves or mittens, and you choose gloves remembering the cardinal rule. Bare hands in public are as shocking as shouting in a library. Historians still argue whether these dress codes were about controlling women's bodies or giving them a uniform to wield social influence. Either way, you're encased, a mannequin of propriety. As Eliza finishes, you glance at the mirror. The reflection isn't you, not really. It's a carefully crafted version, every detail shouting respectability. Your waist is tiny, your posture perfect, but you feel like a doll in a glass case, pretty and trapped. The weight of the clothes, nearly 20 pounds, makes every step a deliberate act, like wading through a sea of expectations. You're not just dressing, you're armoring up for a world where a misbuttoned cuff could tank your reputation faster than a bad reality TV stint. You descend the narrow staircase, the crinoline swaying like a ship in a storm, brushing against the banister. The house hums with quiet activity. Servants polish silver in the hall, their eyes lowered as you pass. In the dining room, your mother waits, already dressed in her fortress of fabric, her expression a mix of approval and warning. "Mind your posture, Eleanor," she says, using your Victorian name, her voice soft but sharp, like a needle hidden in silk. You nod, adjusting your spine, feeling the corset dig in as you sit. Breakfast awaits, but eating's a challenge when your stomach's squashed to the size of a teacup. You pick at the spread: poached eggs, toast, a sliver of bacon. Each bite measured to avoid looking greedy. Victorian ladies don't devour. They nibble, as if hunger's another emotion to suppress. Your mother mentions your schedule again. Morning calls at noon, tea at 3. The calls are a social gauntlet where you'll visit neighbors for precisely timed chats that feel like verbal chess. One wrong move, say lingering 16 minutes, and you're the talk of the town, and not the good kind. You sip weak tea, the china cup clinking softly, and try to memorize the rules. No gossip, no strong opinions, no eye contact with strangers. The sensory details ground you: the faint creak of the dining table, the acrid tang of coal smoke drifting through the window, the rustle of your skirt as you shift. You imagine modern you cracking a joke, something about how these rules make speed dating look like a free-for-all, but you swallow it. Instead, you nod at your mother's advice about complimenting Mrs. Langley's new bonnet during today's calls. It's a safe topic, unlike, say, politics or, heaven forbid, your feelings. As breakfast ends, you rise, the crinoline making the motion a calculated ballet. Your mother hands you a small card case for your visiting cards, little rectangles of paper with your name engraved in elegant script. These are your social currency, proof you've paid your respects to the right people. You tuck the case into your reticule, a tiny drawstring bag barely big enough for a handkerchief and a few coins. The weight of the day presses heavier than your dress. Every interaction will be scrutinized, every word weighed. You're not just Eleanor. You're a walking emblem of your family's status. Before heading out, you steal a moment in the parlor, pretending to read a book of sermons, improving literature naturally, since novels might corrupt your delicate mind. The room's dim, lit by a single oil lamp, its flame flickering like it's tired of the rules too. You hear the distant clatter of a milk cart outside, the cry of a street vendor hawking hot chestnuts. London's alive, but you're bound by invisible threads, each one a rule dictating how a lady moves, speaks, even thinks. Your mother calls you to prepare for the calls, and you smooth your gloves, steeling yourself for the performance. It's not just a visit, it's a test, and failing means whispers that could haunt you for years. You linger in the parlor after dressing, the faint tick of the mantel clock marking time like a metronome for propriety, as you pretend to leaf through a book of moral essays. Anything racier might scandalize the household ghosts. The room's air carries the lingering scent of beeswax polish from the servants' morning rounds, mixed with the ever-present coal haze that clings to the velvet drapes. Your crinoline whispers against the carpet as you shift, a constant reminder that even sitting is a performance here. But duty calls, or rather, your mother does, her voice floating up the stairs like a summons from on high. Breakfast awaits, and in this era, it's not just fuel, It's another stage for the endless play of Victorian restraint. You enter the dining room, the door creaking softly on its hinges, and take your seat at the polished mahogany table. Father sits at the head, his newspaper a shield against the world, spectacles glinting under the gaslight chandelier. Mother presides at the foot, pouring tea from a silver pot with the precision of a surgeon. Your brother, Edmund, lounges opposite, already halfway through his kippers, his cravat slightly askew in that youthful rebellion only men can afford. No one rises to greet you. Public displays of affection, even familial ones, are as rare as sunshine in London fog. A quick good morning suffices, murmured without eye contact, lest it veer into unseemly warmth. Modern you thinks it's like a family reunion where everyone's allergic to hugs, but you bite back the quip. The spread is substantial, as Victorians believed breakfast should fortify for the day's rigors. Poached eggs glistening on china plates, rashers of bacon crisp and salty, toast points with marmalade that stick sweetly to your fingers. You serve yourself daintily, mindful that a lady's appetite must appear bird-like, corset or no. Gorging is vulgar. The clink of silverware echoes softly, the only sound besides the rustle of father's paper. Conversation tiptoes in. Mother mentions the weather, grey and drizzly, perfect for staying indoors and avoiding the unwashed masses. Father grunts about Parliament's latest bill, but quickly pivots. Politics at the table risks indigestion, or worse, debate. Mainstream fact: Victorian family meals emphasized hierarchy, with the father as undisputed head, reflecting the era's patriarchal structure where men controlled finances and decisions. Quirky tidbit: some households used dumbwaiters, small elevators for food, to minimize servant interruptions, turning meals into oddly silent affairs, like dining in a library that serves eggs. You sip your tea, milky and weak, feeling the warmth spread, but keep your posture arrow straight. Slouching would earn a maternal glare sharper than any knife. Edmund teases lightly about your upcoming calls, suggesting Mrs. Hargrove's parlour is duller than ditch water. Mother shoots him a look, teasing borders on impropriety, especially towards sisters. You respond neutrally. I'm sure it will be enlightening, hiding any spark of agreement. Emotions stay leashed here. No outbursts, no tears, no laughter that rings too loud. It's exhausting, this constant vigilance, like being in a perpetual job interview with your kin. Historians still argue whether these family rules built resilient characters or bred repression that fueled later psychological woes. Freud would have a field day with it all. As plates empty, Mother reminds you of subtle protocols. At tea later, congratulate cousin Beatrice on her embroidery exhibit, but don't pry into details. That's presumptuous. You nod, filing it away with 100 other invisible edicts. Father folds his paper, mentioning a potential investment with the Fairchilds, his tone casual but eyes appraising. Your heart skips. Thomas Fairchild, that name again. The one whispered in parlours like a promising stock. But you keep your face blank, showing interest in a gentleman. That's forward, almost fast. Instead, you murmur something about the family's good standing, deflecting like a pro. The meal wraps with a quiet grace. Father retreats to his study, Edmund to his club, men's freedoms, envy of the era, and you to feminine pursuits. Mother lingers, her hand brushing yours briefly, the closest to affection she'll venture. Remember, Eleanor, Composure is a lady's best ally. You smile faintly, feeling the weight of her words. Sensory details anchor you. The lingering taste of bitter tea on your tongue, the faint scratch of lace at your cuffs, the distant rumble of a hansom cab outside. You're navigating a minefield where hugs are grenades and opinions are tripwires. With breakfast done, you retire to the drawing room, picking up your needlepoint, a floral pattern that's as exciting as watching paint dry, but idle hands invite the devil, or so the saying goes. The needle pricks your finger, a tiny rebellion, and you suck the bead of blood discreetly. Mother joins, her work an intricate sampler, and conversation turns to safe harbors. The vicar's last sermon, uplifting, naturally, a charity bazaar upcoming. She mentions Thomas again, obliquely, his return from university, his fine manners. Your pulse quickens, but you stitch on, voice even. How agreeable. Inside, modern you jokes that Victorian flirting is like sending smoke signals through a blizzard, subtle to the point of invisibility. The clock chimes 11, pulling you from reverie. Time to prepare for those morning calls which, hilariously, start at noon. You set aside your work, the unfinished rows mocking your divided attention. Mother approves your outfit again, ensuring no flyaway hairs or smudged gloves. First impressions linger, she warns, as if you haven't heard it 1,000 times. You nod, the rules echoing. Walk slowly, eyes downcast, speak softly. It's a script, and you're the lead actress in a drama where ad-libbing means curtains. As you gather your card case, the house feels smaller, the rules tighter. Family breakfast was just the appetizer. The day's full menu of decorum awaits. You step toward the hall, crinoline swaying, ready, or as ready as one can be, for the social ballet outside. The fog presses against the windows like an eager spectator, and you wonder if even the weather follows rules here. But onward you go, one gloved hand on the door, into a world where breakfast norms set the tone for a life of careful steps. You smooth your skirts one last time in the hall mirror, the glass reflecting a composed figure that's more armor than person. As the clock strikes noon, time for those baffling morning calls that defy their name. The air in the entryway carries the polish of lemon oil from the banister, mingling with the distant kitchen scents of baking bread. A rare whiff of normalcy in this scripted world. Mother joins you, her bonnet tied precisely under her chin, and together you step out into the foggy London street, where hansoms clatter by and pedestrians bustle with purposeful strides. Walking here isn't casual, it's a performance. Small steps, eyes modestly averted, back straight as a ruler. Your crinoline swings gently, nearly brushing a passing errand boy who dodges with a mumbled apology. Too fast a pace, and you'd seem hurried, unladylike. Too slow, and you're dawdling, equally suspect. The first call is to Mrs. Hargrove's, just 2 streets over. But you time it meticulously. Arrive early, and you imply idleness. Late, and it's rudeness personified. Punctuality is the silent language of status, whispering that your day is full yet manageable. As you approach her townhouse, its facade prim with white-trimmed windows and a brass knocker gleaming like a challenge, you pull out your visiting cards from the reticule. These little engraved slips are your passports to society, left if the hostess isn't at home, or presented if she is. Mainstream fact: by the Victorian mid-century, visiting cards evolved from simple introductions to elaborate status symbols. often with turned corners signaling the nature of the call: personal, condolence, or congratulations. Quirky tidbit: some cards featured hidden messages via edge-turning codes, like a secret society handshake in paper form. The butler answers your knock, his livery impeccable, face a mask of neutrality. You hand over the cards on a silver tray he extends. Feeling like you're playing a high-stakes game of social poker, he disappears inside. And after a pause that feels eternal but is mere seconds, returns. "Mrs. Hargrove is at home, miss." You're ushered into the parlor, a room stuffed with velvet sofas, porcelain figurines, and the faint smell of potpourri battling the coal smoke. Mrs. Hargrove rises from her chair, curtsying lightly. No hugs, no cheek kisses. Physical contact is reserved for the truly intimate or the scandalously bold. "How delightful to see you," she says, her voice modulated to perfect pleasantness, gesturing to a seat. You perch on the edge of the sofa, your crinoline demanding you sit forward like a bird on a wire, arranging your skirts to avoid crushing the hoops. Mother takes the adjacent chair, and the ritual begins. Exactly 15 minutes of conversation, timed by an internal clock, honed from years of practice. Topics are safe as houses. The recent flower show at Kew Gardens, charming, but not overly so. The vicar's sermon on charity, inspiring, without excess zeal. You congratulate her on her daughter's recent piano recital, as mother instructed, but don't ask for details. Curiosity veers into prying, and Victorians abhor a snoop. It's like chatting with landmines under every word. Step wrong, and boom, your invitation list shrinks. Mrs. Hargrove's daughter, Lydia, joins midway, her dress a mirror of restraint in pale lavender. She blushes appropriately when you mention the recital, murmuring thanks with eyes downcast. No one laughs outright. Amusement shows in subtle smiles, lest it seem unrefined. You feel the seconds ticking, overstay, and you're imposing, cut short, and you're dismissive. Modern? You want to crack that this is like a timer on a bomb. But you sip the offered tea instead, the cup's heat seeping through your gloves. Historians still debate whether these calls reinforced community bonds or merely perpetuated class divisions, with some arguing they were women's subtle power plays in a male-dominated world. As the invisible 15-minute mark approaches, Mother gives a nearly imperceptible nod. Your cue. You rise together, more curtsies exchanged like currency. "Such a pleasure," Mrs. Hargrove says, escorting you to the door with the butler shadowing. Outside, the fog has thickened, muffling street sounds, and Mother comments approvingly. "Well handled, Eleanor." Lydia seemed composed. You agree neutrally, the rules forbidding gloating or critique. Next stop, the Langtons. A similar dance, but with added pressure. Rumors swirl that their son, back from India, seeks a match. Your heart flutters, but you squash it. Eagerness is a faux pas. The Langtons' home looms larger, its knocker a lion's head that seems to judge your approach. Cards presented, admitted again, this time to a parlor alive with the scent of fresh lilies and the tick of a grandfather clock. Mrs. Langton greets warmly but reservedly, her gown whispering wealth in its silk sheen. Conversation flows. The weather, improving, one hopes. A new exhibition at the British Museum, educational, naturally. You inquire after her son delicately. "I hear Mr. Langton's travels were enlightening," drawing a modest smile. She hints at his interest in botany, a safe passion, and you nod appreciatively, stitching in a comment about your modest herb garden. It's flirtation by proxy, all veiled in politeness. The clock's hands creep forward, and you time your exit flawlessly, leaving with promises of future teas. Back on the street, a drizzle starts, umbrellas blooming like black flowers among passers-by. Men tip hats as you pass, but you acknowledge with the barest nod. No eye contact with strangers, lest it invite impropriety. A gentleman speaking unintroduced? Scandal. You dodge a puddle, crinoline hiked slightly, feeling the social minefield underfoot. One call left, Aunt Lydia's. But that's tea at 3, a slight reprieve. Mother chats softly as you walk. Mrs. Langton's mention of her son was pointed. You murmur agreement, hiding any thrill. The rules here are clear. Interest in suitors must simmer unseen. Like tea leaves in hot water, sensory overload hits. The damp cobblestones slick under your boots, the distant cry of a newsboy hawking headlines, the pinch of your corset with each breath. It's exhausting, this endless navigation. But there's a strange comfort in the structure, every step prescribed. Arriving home briefly to refresh, you shed your bonnet in the hall, the mirror showing faint fatigue lines. Eliza whisks away your damp shawl, murmuring about tea preparations. The parlor calls again for a brief respite. Needlepoint resumes, the needle a tiny anchor in the storm of decorum. But your mind wanders to the call's undercurrents, the subtle alliances formed and tested. Victorian society thrives on these rituals, fragile as spun sugar, yet sharp as glass. You stitch a petal, pricking your finger again, a small joke in your head that blood's the only honest thing today, and prepare for the afternoon's next act. You return from the morning calls, the front door clicking shut behind you like a punctuation mark on the morning's performances, as mother removes her bonnet with a satisfied sigh. The hall mirror catches your reflection again, cheeks slightly flushed from the damp air, gloves still pristine, and you hand them to Eliza, who materializes silently to whisk away outer layers. The house envelops you in its familiar hush, the grandfather clock ticking like a heartbeat, measuring out the day's remaining obligations. Tea with Aunt Lydia looms at 3, but for now, there's a pocket of time for suitable pursuits, those feminine activities that fill the gaps between social duties. You head to the drawing room, the carpet muffling your footsteps, and settle by the window with your needlepoint frame, the half-finished floral motif waiting like an old friend, or a nagging chore, depending on your mood. The light filters through lace curtains, casting delicate patterns on the linen as you thread your needle with pale pink silk, the color of restrained elegance. Needlework isn't just a hobby, it's a virtue, a way to keep hands busy and minds modestly occupied. You prick the fabric, pulling the thread through in tiny, even stitches, the repetitive motion almost meditative, like a Victorian version of mindfulness apps, but with more pricked fingers. Mainstream fact: Victorian women were encouraged to master accomplishments like embroidery, which demonstrated patience and domestic skill, essential for attracting suitors in an era when marriage was a primary career path. Quirky tidbit: some ladies incorporated secret codes into their samplers, like initials or symbols representing forbidden loves, turning innocent stitches into covert confessions, embroidery as espionage. Mother joins you shortly, her work an intricate lace collar destined for a charity auction. She settles across from you, the rustle of her skirts a soft underscore to the room's quiet. Conversation starts innocently, the Hargroves' new wallpaper, tasteful if a bit bold. The Langtons' cook's renowned scones, fluffy, one hears. But then it shifts, subtle as a needle's glide, to whispers of society news. I couldn't help but notice Mrs. Langton's mention of her nephew, Mother says casually, her eyes on her stitches. Not you. Your heart gives a little leap. Thomas Fairchild again. That name cropping up like a persistent motif in your day's tapestry. You keep your gaze lowered, replying evenly, "Oh? How interesting." Showing too much curiosity. That's unbecoming, like a stitch pulled too tight and puckering the fabric. She continues, her voice a murmur that could pass for discussing the weather. "He's back from Oxford, they say. Inquired after you at the club, according to your father." The words hang there, laced with implication, and you feel warmth creep up your neck. Thomas, with his steady gaze and rare, genuine smile from that ball last season, where he didn't once step on your toes, a miracle among clumsy dancers. Modern you wants to joke that Victorian gossip is like a group chat with no emojis, all subtext and no receipts. But you bite your lip, focusing on a leaf pattern that's suddenly fascinating. Very civil of him, you manage, your needle dipping in and out, the thread whispering secrets of its own. Mother nods approvingly at your restraint. Eagerness would be vulgar, like over-embroidering a simple design. The rules of courtship here are a delicate web. Pretend disinterest, while signaling just enough to keep the thread going. Historians still argue whether this emotional suppression strengthened marital bonds through mystery or sowed seeds of misunderstanding that plagued many unions. You prick your finger again, a tiny dot of blood blooming on the linen. Oops. That's what happens when your mind wanders to kind eyes and Oxford tales. You dab it quickly with your handkerchief, the rosewater scent rising like a faint protest. The clock chimes 2, pulling you from the subtle dance of words. Eliza enters with a tray of light refreshments, biscuits and weak lemonade. To tide you over until tea, you set aside your work, the frame resting on the side table amid doilies and a vase of wilting roses. Their petals a reminder that even beauty fades under scrutiny. Mother sips her drink, steering the talk to safer waters. The upcoming church fete, where you'll man a stall selling embroidered handkerchiefs. Your work will fetch a good price, she says. A rare direct compliment wrapped in practicality. You thank her modestly, hiding any pride. Boasting is for men at their clubs, not ladies in drawing rooms. As you nibble a biscuit, crumbly, with a hint of almond, the conversation circles back, inevitably, to alliances. The Fairchilds are hosting a dinner soon, Mother mentions, her tone offhand, but eyes watchful. We may receive an invitation. Your pulse quickens again, imagining Thomas across a table, his conversation polite yet probing, but you respond with a neutral, "How pleasant," stitching mental notes instead of fabric. Gossip here isn't malicious, it's currency, traded in whispers to navigate the marriage market. A wrong word could unravel reputations, like a pulled thread, ruining hours of work. Eliza clears the tray, her presence a silent reminder of the household's eyes and ears. Servants gossip too, their network faster than any telegram. You resume stitching, the needle's rhythm syncing with your thoughts. Thomas's interest, veiled in inquiries, feels like a promising bud in your floral design. Modern, you chuckle inwardly at how this era turns romance into a puzzle box, all locks and no keys. The light shifts as clouds part outside, illuminating the room briefly, and you glance up to see a carriage pass, its occupants blurred figures in the fog. Mother excuses herself to write correspondence. Letters are another art form, worded with care to avoid offense. Alone for a moment, you let your mind drift. What if Thomas calls? The rules dictate chaperones, timed visits, and no unchaperoned moments. It's thrilling, yet terrifying, like threading a needle in the dark. You add a stitch, the pink blooming into a rose, a symbol of love in that floral language, subtle, like everything here. The clock edges toward 3, and you set your work aside, the frame a testament to your productive hours. Eliza returns to help with your bonnet and shawl. Tea at Aunt Lydia's awaits. Another round of subtle probes and polite deflections. As you prepare, Mother's earlier whispers echo. Thomas's interest, a young man's gaze turned your way. It's gossip, yes, but the good kind, seeding possibilities in the garden of propriety. You smooth your gloves, feeling the day's threads weaving tighter, each one a rule, a hint, a hope. Stepping out again, the air cooler now. You walk with Mother to Aunt Lydia's, the street alive with vendors and children dodging puddles. Tea will be similar, safe topics, measured sips, perhaps more on Thomas if Aunt's in the know. The sensory pull grounds you, the clip of your boots on cobblestones, the faint jingle of a passing horse's harness, the pinch of your corset with each breath. It's a world of whispers, where needlework and gossip intertwine, crafting futures one stitch, one word at a time. You arrive at Aunt's door, card case ready, prepared for the next subtle layer in this elaborate embroidery of life. You set down your needlepoint as the afternoon light slants lower through the drawing room window, casting long shadows that dance like hesitant partners across the patterned carpet. The faint chime of the clock marks 3:30, and Eliza appears at the door, her apron crisp as ever, holding a silver salver with a single envelope. "A note for you, miss," she says, curtsying lightly before handing it over. The paper is thick, cream-colored, sealed with a blob of wax, imprinted with an elegant F. Fairchild, no doubt. Your fingers trace the seal, feeling the slight warmth from the delivery boy's haste, and you break it open carefully, as if mishandling it might summon a social faux pas from the ether. Inside, the script is precise, flowing. Mrs. Fairchild requests the pleasure of your family's company at dinner next Thursday at 7. It's formal, of course. Victorians don't dash off casual invites. Everything's etched in etiquette, like fine engraving on silver. Mother peers over your shoulder, her breath a soft huff of approval. "The Fairchilds, excellent connections," she murmurs, her voice laced with that matchmaking undertone, subtle as the lavender sachet tucked in your drawer. You nod demurely, but inside, your thoughts whirl to Thomas, those steady eyes from the ball, now potentially across a dinner table. Modern, you smirk at how this feels like a Regency rom-com setup, but with more layers of fabric and fewer witty comebacks. The invitation isn't just polite. It's a calculated move in the grand chess game of Victorian alliances. Families like yours and the Fairchilds orbit the same social sphere. solid middle-class respectability, with father's import business complementing Mr. Fairchild's shipping interests. Accepting means signaling openness to deeper ties, perhaps even matrimonial ones. You fold the note, tucking it away, and mother dictates a reply on matching stationery. Gracious acceptance, regrets if any conflicts, there are none, and best regards. Eliza whisks it off to be delivered, her footsteps fading down the hall like a retreating whisper. With the invitation secured, the house settles into its evening rhythm. You resume your stitching briefly, but your mind wanders to what the dinner might entail. Multiple courses, each utensil a potential trap, conversations balanced on the knife edge of propriety. Sensory details pull you in, the faint crackle of the fire in the grate, the sweet tang of lemon polish on the woodwork, the distant clatter from the kitchen where cook prepares supper. It's comforting, this predictability, yet thrilling with the hint of change. Thomas's name echoes in your thoughts, a quirky tidbit surfacing. Some Victorian suitors sent coded messages via invitations, like specific flower arrangements at the table symbolizing interest, roses for affection, but daisies for innocence, turning dinner into a botanical flirtation. Mother breaks the quiet. We'll need to select your gown carefully, something modest yet becoming. You agree, picturing the blue silk in your wardrobe, its sheen like moonlight on water. Preparations begin in earnest over the next days. A visit to the modiste for minor alterations, ensuring the bodice fits without a whisper of scandal. Mainstream fact, Victorian dinners were elaborate affairs, often with up to 12 courses, reflecting the era's growing middle-class prosperity, an emphasis on displaying refinement through cuisine and table manners. You practice your curtsy in the mirror, the crinoline billowing like a sail, joking inwardly that it's like rehearsing for a play where the audience judges your every line. As Thursday approaches, the household buzzes subtly. Servants polish the carriage lamps extra bright. Father reviews his best anecdotes for the men's post-dinner port. You wake that morning to Eliza drawing curtains, the London fog pressing close, muffling the street cries below. Breakfast passes with reminders. Speak when spoken to. Avoid controversial topics like the latest parliamentary reforms. And if young Mr. Fairchild engages you, Mother adds casually, respond with poise. Your cheeks warm, but you sip your tea steadily, hiding the flutter. Historians still argue whether these arranged social encounters fostered genuine connections or merely perpetuated economic mergers disguised as romance, with debates centering on diaries revealing mixed emotions from the time. The day unfolds in a haze of anticipation. A light walk in the park with Mother, nodding to acquaintances under dripping elms, the air damp and earthy. Back home, Eliza runs a bath scented with jasmine oil, luxurious but restrained, as overt pampering smacks of vanity. You soak briefly, the water's warmth easing the corset's future grip. Then the dressing commences. Corset laced tighter for evening, petticoats layered, crinoline expanded for that bell-like silhouette. The blue silk gown slips on, its lace trim whispering against your skin, neckline modest yet revealing a hint of collarbone, the maximum for an unmarried lady. Eliza arranges your hair in soft curls, pinned with pearl combs, a dusting of rice powder for that pale, ethereal look. No rouge. That's for actresses or the disreputable. You descend as the carriage arrives, Father helping you in with a paternal nod. The ride to the Fairchilds is short, the clip-clop of hooves on cobblestones a rhythmic prelude, gas lamps flickering like watchful eyes through the fog. Their townhouse glows welcomingly, windows ablaze with light, a footman in livery opening the door. Inside, the hall smells of beeswax candles and fresh flowers, lilies and ferns arranged artfully. The butler announces you, Mr. and Mrs. Beaumont and Miss Eleanor Beaumont. Heads turn in the drawing room, a murmur of greetings rising like steam from tea. Mrs. Fairchild approaches, her gown a rustle of emerald taffeta, curtsying with warmth. "So glad you could join us," she says, her eyes flicking approvingly over your attire. And there, by the mantel, stands Thomas, taller than memory painted, his evening coat fitting perfectly, dark hair neatly combed. He bows, not too deeply, that'd be servile. His voice steady. "Miss Beaumont, a pleasure." You curtsy, murmuring a reply, feeling the spark of his gaze like a hidden ember. Modern, you joke that this is eye contact as foreplay, but you lower your lashes demurely. Guests mingle standing, no sitting before dinner, lest it imply hunger's grip. Conversation bubbles safely. A recent opera, melodious, not overwrought. The Crystal Palace exhibition, marvelous engineering. Thomas maneuvers closer, addressing Mother first. "I trust the journey was pleasant." She nods, and he turns to you. "Oxford was enlightening, but London's charms endure." Is that flirtation? Veiled, of course, like everything here. You respond about the city's cultural offerings, words measured, pulse not. The butler announces dinner, and the procession forms, host with the highest-ranking lady, and so on. You find yourself on a middle-aged gentleman's arm, Thomas escorting an aunt across from you. The dining room dazzles, crystal twinkling under candles, china gleaming, the air rich with roast beef and claret scents. Seated midway, not exalted, not slighted, you navigate utensils from outside in, each course a test. Soup first, sipped silently, fish with the proper fork. Talk to neighbors only, topics neutral. Travels to Bath, restorative. Art at the Academy, elevating. Thomas catches your eye briefly, a small smile, loaded in this restrained world. You return it subtly, feeling the matchmaking undercurrent. Dessert arrives, fruits in jelly, quivering like nervous debutantes, and ladies withdraw, leaving men to cigars. In the drawing room, tea and piano requests flow. You decline modestly when asked, avoiding showiness. Gentlemen rejoin, Thomas circulating but pausing near you. The exhibition sounds promising. Perhaps you'd enjoy it? The invitation was hinted at, but proper. The evening winds down at 10, carriages called. Farewells exchanged, Thomas bows. "Until next time, Miss Beaumont." Outside, the fog wraps coolly, your family carriage rumbling home. Mother smiles. A successful evening. The Fairchilds approve. You agree softly, the invitation's hint blooming into possibility. Back home, Eliza undresses you, layers peeling like secrets revealed. In bed, the fire's embers glow, and you drift thinking of Thomas. The dinner's subtle dance a step towards something more. The city hushes outside, rules lingering even in dreams. You wake to the soft scrape of curtains being drawn, Eliza's silhouette against the grey dawn light that filters through the ever-present London haze, her voice a murmur. "Good morning, miss." Dinner at the Fairchilds tonight calls for extra care. The room smells of last night's banked fire, ash, and faint wood smoke clinging to the air like a reluctant guest, and you stretch under the flannel sheets, feeling the invitation's weight from days ago, now a tangible pull. Breakfast passes in its usual restrained fashion. Father buried in ledgers, mother dispensing advice on which brooch complements your gown without overshadowing modesty. You nibble toast, the butter melting slowly, your mind already layering on the evening's expectations like the petticoats awaiting upstairs. Mid-morning brings the modiste's visit, a flurry of pins and tape measures in the parlor, where sunlight struggles through lace, casting freckled patterns on the floorboards. She adjusts the blue silk's hem, ensuring it skims the ground just so, no tripping hazards in a world where grace is currency. A touch more lace at the cuffs, mother suggests, her eye critical, and you stand still as a mannequin, the fabric's cool slide against your skin, a preview of the night's armor. Mainstream fact, Victorian evening gowns often featured off-the-shoulder designs for married women, but unmarried ladies kept necklines higher, reflecting the era's strict delineation of marital status through fashion. Quirky tidbit: some dresses incorporated hidden pockets for vinaigrettes, tiny scent bottles to revive fainting spells from tight corsets, turning potential embarrassment into prepared elegance. As the modiste packs her kit, you retreat for a light luncheon. Cold meats and salad. Nothing heavy to strain the corset later. The afternoon stretches with piano practice, your fingers dancing over keys in a Beethoven sonata that's accomplished but not flashy. Showing off is for the stage, not society. The notes fill the drawing room, echoing off wallpaper patterned with faint vines, a sensory balm amid the building tension. Mother listens from her chair, nodding approval. Play if asked, but only once. Eagerness is unbecoming. You smile faintly, inwardly joking that Victorian parties are like auditions where the prize is a good match, not applause. By late afternoon, preparations intensify. Eliza draws a bath in the chilly bathroom, steam rising from water scented with violet essence. A subtle nod to cleanliness without vulgar perfume. You soak briefly, the heat loosening muscles tensed from days of poise, then emerge to the ritual of dressing. Chemise first, soft cotton against damp skin. Then the corset, Eliza pulling laces with determined tugs until your waist narrows to that envied span. Breath shortens, ribs shift, and you grip the bedpost, feeling like a sculpture being chiseled. Petticoats layer on, whispering with each addition, followed by the wider evening crinoline that turns you into a floating dome. The blue silk gown crowns it all, bodice hugging like a promise, sleeves puffing modestly at the shoulders. Eliza works your hair next, twisting it into an elaborate chignon adorned with silk ribbons matching the gown's hue. No feathers or jewels. Ostentation whispers wealth, but screams vulgarity. A light veil of rice powder dusts your face for that porcelain pallor, fashionable since the Queen's preference for natural looks. Gloves slide on, kid leather smooth as second skin, and you add a simple pearl necklace, family heirloom, signifying lineage without flash. Historians still debate whether such beauty rituals empowered women as artists of their image, or reduced them to decorative objects in a patriarchal display. You glance in the mirror, elegant, controlled, every curve and line a testament to restraint. Modern you quips that it's like prepping for a red carpet, where the dress code is suffer beautifully. Father summons the carriage at 6:30, ensuring punctual arrival, fashionably on time, never early to seem desperate. The ride jostles over cobblestones, gas lamps blooming in the twilight like hesitant stars, the fog muting the city's clamor to a distant hum. Your family chats lightly, business prospects for father, charity work for mother, your brother Edmund teasing about eligible bachelors. You deflect with a soft laugh, hiding the anticipation bubbling like uncorked champagne. The Fairchild's home welcomes with blazing windows, a footman assisting your descent, his gloved hand steady. Inside, the hall gleams with polished marble and fresh hothouse blooms, roses and camellias, their perfume a delicate overture. The butler announces you into the drawing room, where guests stand in clusters, gowns rustling like leaves in a breeze. Mrs. Fairchild greets warmly, her eyes appraising your ensemble approvingly. Thomas stands nearby, his evening attire sharpening his features, bowing with that perfect balance of respect and warmth. "Miss Beaumont, you look well," he says, voice low enough to feel personal, yet proper. Mingling commences. Safe topics like the latest Dickens serialization, engaging, morally sound, or the great exhibition's wonders, progressive, patriotic. You circulate gracefully, crinoline navigating the room like a ship through harbors, exchanging pleasantries with an elderly aunt whose brooch catches the light. Thomas approaches again, addressing the group, but eyes linger on you. The exhibition's Crystal Palace was a marvel. Have you seen it? You reply about its innovative glasswork, words measured, spark hidden in subtext, its flirtation by implication, thrilling in its subtlety. Dinners announced, the procession pairing you with an uncle, Thomas with a cousin. The dining room overwhelms, linen tablecloth starched white, silver candelabra casting golden glows, the air rich with impending feasts. Seated opposite Thomas, you note the place card's hierarchy, middling position, encouraging without presumption. Courses unfold, consommé clear as conscience, fish in white sauce, roast pheasant with truffles. Utensils progress outward in, each bite small, chewing silently. Conversation with neighbors, the theatre's latest, wholesome, not sensational. Travels to the lakes, picturesque, restorative. Thomas's gaze meets yours occasionally, a silent dialogue amid the chatter. Dessert, creamy blancmange quivering on plates, signals ladies' withdrawal. In the drawing room, tea pours, and a music request. You play a gentle Chopin waltz, fingers light on ivory keys, posture impeccable. Applause polite, Thomas's nod appreciative. Gentlemen rejoin, cigars scent trailing, and talk resumes. Books, art, nothing passionate. The clock nears 10. Guests departing in waves, farewells at the door. Thomas bows. A delightful evening. Perhaps we'll meet again soon. His hand brushes yours in the handshake, a fleeting warmth. In the carriage home, mother beams. Thomas seemed attentive. You murmur agreement, the night's beauty lingering like powder on your skin. Home, Eliza undresses you, layers shedding like worries. In bed, the silk's memory clings, preparation's effort yielding subtle advances. Sleep comes, dreams weaving gowns and glances into tomorrow's possibilities. You settle into your seat at the Fairchild's gleaming dining table. the chair's velvet upholstery soft under your gloved hands. As the first course arrives on delicate china plates that clink like whispered secrets, the room hums with subdued energy. Candles flicker in silver holders, casting warm shadows that dance across starched linen and polished cutlery. The air thick with the savory promise of consommé steaming gently before you. Guests arrange themselves according to invisible hierarchies. The host, Mr. Fairchild, at the head with the highest-ranking lady to his right. Mrs. Fairchild opposite, flanked by the top gentleman. You're positioned midway, a neutral spot that feels like a subtle compliment, not exalted enough to pressure, not demoted to the end where conversations fade into oblivion. Thomas sits across and 2 seats down, close enough for occasional glances, but far enough to demand propriety. The butler serves with silent precision, ladling soup that gleams golden under the light. Its aroma of rich broth and faint herbs cutting through the underlying coal smoke that seeps even into fine homes. You lift your spoon carefully, outermost utensil first, a rule drilled into every proper upbringing, and sip without slurping, the liquid warm on your tongue but not scorching. Conversation begins in measured tones, directed to your immediate neighbors. To your left, an elderly colonel with a moustache like a well-groomed hedge, discussing his time in India. Fascinating climate, challenging yet character-building. To your right, a matronly widow opining on the latest charitable bazaar. Most uplifting, contributions modest but heartfelt. No shouting across the table. That'd be as crass as eating with your fingers. Mainstream fact. Victorian dinners followed strict French service style by the 1850s, with courses presented sequentially and utensils progressing inward, a system that tested guests' breeding and could expose social climbers in a single misplaced fork. Quirky tidbit. Hostesses sometimes used conversation cards hidden under plates to prompt safe topics, turning meals into scripted plays where ad-libs risked disaster, like a bad improv show with reputational stakes. You navigate smoothly, complimenting the colonel's tales without probing personal details. Curiosity about finances or romances is vulgar, like belching at the opera. Modern, you chuckle inwardly at how this feels like a minefield where the bombs are faux pas, and detonation means whispers following you home. Thomas's voice carries occasionally from his spot, discussing Oxford's classical curriculum with a barrister. Polite, informed, his tone steady as a well-tuned clock. Your eyes meet briefly over the fish course, poached sole in a creamy sauce that slides smoothly on the palate, and he offers a small nod, loaded with unspoken interest. But you look away demurely. Prolonged eye contact could spark gossip, implying forwardness on your part. The widow chatters about her niece's recent engagement, and you congratulate appropriately. How fortunate, without asking for wedding details. That's prying. And Victorians guard personal joys like state secrets. Courses march on. Roast beef carved tableside, its juices pooling pink on the plate, accompanied by Yorkshire pudding, crisp and golden. Then game birds, pheasant perhaps, with tart cranberry sauce that bursts sharply on the tongue. Each bite is small, chewed quietly. Ladies don't devour. They sustain with elegance. Wine flows in crystal glasses, claret deep red and velvety, but you sip sparingly. Overindulgence leads to flushed cheeks and loosened tongues, both unbecoming. The colonel shares a mild anecdote about colonial teas, exotic spices, quite invigorating, and you respond with interest, feigned just right, not too eager, lest it seem flirtatious. Halfway through, the social stakes heighten. A guest mentions politics obliquely, the Corn Law's repeal, progressive, one supposes, but the table stiffens. Mr. Fairchild steers smoothly to safer waters, the Royal Academy's new exhibit, most edifying. You contribute a neutral comment on Turner's seascapes, evocative without excess. Earning approving nods, Thomas chimes in, praising the light effects, his gaze flicking to you as if drawing a parallel to the room's candle glow. It's a subtle courtship, words as veils over intent, thrilling in its restraint. Historians still argue whether these rigid table rules fostered genuine discourse or merely performative harmony, suppressing conflicts that simmered beneath like overcooked stew. Dessert arrives, trifle layered with custard and fruit, spongy and sweet, topped with whipped cream that melts coolly in your mouth, signaling the gendered split. Mrs. Fairchild catches the senior lady's eye and rises. You follow the women out, skirts rustling like autumn leaves, to the drawing room. Here, the air lightens slightly, tea poured from a silver urn, steam curling lazily, and talk turns to feminine concerns, embroidery patterns, delicate, therapeutic, children's education, moral above all. No cigars or port for you. That's men's domain, preserving the myth of delicate constitutions unable to handle smoke or spirits. The separation serves purposes. Men discuss business, investments in railways, promising returns. Women freshen up discreetly. Those voluminous skirts hide chamber pots if needed, a practical nod to fashion's follies. You sip tea, its bergamot notes sharp and refreshing, listening to Mrs. Fairchild praise your earlier piano mention from gossip circles. Perhaps you'd favor us with a piece later, she asks, her smile maternal yet appraising. You demur modestly, if it pleases, avoiding eagerness that might label you a show-off. Gentlemen rejoin after half an hour, the scent of tobacco clinging faintly to their coats, faces ruddy from drink. Talk resumes in mixed company. An upcoming ball, elegant affair. Literature, Scott's novels, stirring yet proper. Thomas circulates, pausing near you to discuss a shared acquaintance's travels. Enlightening, broadens the mind. His proximity sends a subtle thrill. His cologne, sandalwood, warm and woody, mingling with the room's floral arrangements. Conversation flows impersonally, but undercurrents pull. His questions about your interests, reading naturally, music in moderation, feel like gentle probes, assessing compatibility without overt romance. The clock strikes 10 and departures begin. The first guest's exit cues others, preventing awkward lingerers. You rise with your family, curtsies and bows exchanged like final bows in a play. Thomas approaches last. A most enjoyable evening, Miss Beaumont. Your insights on Turner were particularly astute. You thank him softly, heart quickening at the compliment's layers. Outside, the carriage awaits in the fog-shrouded street, horses stamping impatiently, their breath visible in the chill. Homeward, mother murmurs approval. Thomas sought you out, discreetly, of course. Father nods, mentioning business synergies with Mr. Fairchild. You gaze out at passing gas lamps, their halos blurred, replaying the night's dodges. No wrong forks, no bold opinions, subtle signals sent and received. The dinner's stakes were high, reputation balanced on each word, each glance. But you navigated unscathed, the social faux pas evaded like shadows in candlelight. Undressing later, Eliza unfastens hooks. The gown pools at your feet, a shed skin of the evening's performance. In bed, the house settles creakily, and you drift, the meal's flavors lingering on your palate, Thomas's words echoing in dreams of future tables set for two. You awaken the morning after the Fairchild's dinner to Eliza's soft footsteps, the curtains parting to reveal a London sky that's more pewter than blue, the fog pressing close like an uninvited guest at last night's table. The room holds echoes of the evening, the faint scent of candle wax on your nightgown, a pearl comb forgotten on the dresser, and you stretch under the covers, replaying Thomas's subtle attentions, that lingering gaze over the pheasant, the compliment veiled as commentary on art. Breakfast unfolds predictably, father rustling his paper with news of stock fluctuations, mother pouring tea while hinting at the dinner's success. Thomas Fairchild seemed quite taken with your conversation, she says casually, her spoon stirring circles in her cup, the porcelain clinking like a subtle bell toll. You murmur a neutral, "He was most polite," hiding the warmth blooming in your chest, because admitting delight would tip the scales of decorum. The day stretches with its usual pursuits, a brief walk in the park, where paths wind through manicured lawns damp with dew, gentlemen tipping hats from afar, while you nod modestly, eyes averted. Back home, you settle into the drawing room with a book of poetry, Tennyson's verses, safe and elevating, the pages turning with a whisper that matches your thoughts of Thomas. His courtship feels like a gentle current beneath the surface of polite society, words and glances building quietly, like adding stitches to an intricate pattern. Mainstream fact: Victorian courtship often involved paying addresses, where a gentleman sought permission to visit regularly, a step toward engagement that balanced romance with social scrutiny. Quirky tidbit: suitors sometimes gifted language of fans guides, where a flutter meant "I like you," or a snap, "You're too bold." Flirtation as semaphore, all without a word. Mother joins you mid-morning, her needlework clicking rhythmically, and the conversation turns to subtle probes. "Mrs. Fairchild mentioned a musical evening soon. We may be invited." You nod, pulse quickening at the prospect of seeing Thomas again, but respond with measured interest. How agreeable. It's the dance of denial, pretending nonchalance, while every fiber hums with anticipation. Modern you jokes inwardly that it's like texting K when your heart's doing somersaults. But here, restraint is the ultimate allure. A note arrives by noon, Eliza bearing it on a tray, from Mrs. Fairchild, confirming the musical soiree next week. Your fingers trace the elegant script, feeling the paper's crisp edge, and mother dictates an acceptance, her voice approving. This could be promising. Preparations begin subtly over the days, practicing Mozart pieces on the piano, keys cool under your fingers, notes floating through the house like tentative invitations. Eliza polishes your evening slippers, their satin gleaming, while mother selects a gown in soft rose, becoming but not bold. The musical evening arrives with a carriage ride through twilight streets, gas lamps igniting one by one, their glow hazy in the mist. The Fairchild's home welcomes with piano strains already drifting from open windows, guests arriving in a rustle of silks and top hats. Inside, the drawing room buzzes gently, candles reflecting off polished wood and crystal decanters of sherry. Sipped sparingly, of course. Thomas greets you near the pianoforte, bowing with that warmth hidden in formality. Miss Beaumont, your presence brightens the room. His words land like a hidden note in a melody, and you curtsy, replying about the lovely arrangements, feeling the flirtation weave through politeness. Guests mingle, talk of concerts and exhibitions, and when the music begins, a soprano's aria, voice soaring like a bird in a gilded cage, you listen attentively, applauding with gloved hands. Thomas stands nearby, turning pages for a violinist, his proximity a subtle claim. Your turn comes. Mrs. Fairchild requests a piece, her smile matchmaking sharp. You approach the piano, skirts settling around the bench like fallen petals, and play a gentle Schubert impromptu, technical enough to impress, emotional but contained. Fingers dance over ivory, the room falling hushed, notes filling the air with a sweetness that mirrors your hidden hopes. Thomas offers to turn pages, his hand brushing yours accidentally, a spark in the restrained world. Historians still debate whether such musical accomplishments were true expressions of talent or merely marital advertisements, showcasing domestic virtues to potential suitors. Applause follows, polite ripples, and Thomas murmurs as you rise. Exquisitely played, with such feeling, yet perfectly composed. The double meaning hangs, flirtation buried in praise, and you thank him demurely, cheeks warming under rice powder. The evening progresses, more performances, refreshments of tea and macaroons crisp with almond, conversations circling impersonally, books, Austen's wit, appropriately moral, art, pre-Raphaelite's detail, inspiring yet chaste. Thomas engages you again, discussing poetry. Tennyson's themes of longing resonate, don't they? His eyes hold yours a beat longer, the words a veil over personal intent. Rivals appear subtly. Miss Hargrove, in emerald silk, positions herself near Thomas, laughing softly at his jests. You maintain composure, chatting with an aunt about embroidery, but note the competition. Victorian courtship's a quiet arena, where poise wins over boldness. As guests depart around 10, Thomas approaches for farewell. Until our paths cross again, perhaps at the Academy exhibit? It's an invitation cloaked as a suggestion, and you reply with interest veiled. That sounds most enjoyable. His bow lingers, hand pressing yours briefly in the glove-to-glove contact that's as intimate as allowed. The carriage home rocks gently, mother whispering. Thomas's attention was marked, discreet, but clear. You nod, the night's flirtations replaying like a melody stuck in your head. Undressing, Eliza unpins your hair, curls tumbling free like released secrets. And in bed, the sheets cool against your skin. You ponder the courtship's progress. Thomas's signals, page-turning, compliments, hinted outings, build like a sonata's crescendo, all within propriety's bounds. Sleep comes, dreams blending piano notes and glances, the subtle dance continuing in slumber's unrestrained realm. Days follow with echoes. A bouquet arrives, flowers arranged in floriography, white roses for purity, ivy for fidelity. Thomas's handiwork, subtle as ever. You press one bloom in a book, hiding the gesture from prying eyes. Mother notes it approvingly, and gossip circulates via calls. Friends hint at Thomas's inquiries about your interests. You deflect with poise, but inside, excitement simmers. A park walk brings a chance encounter. Thomas tipping his hat, joining briefly with his sister as chaperone. Talk of weather turning to shared books. His laugh, rare and genuine, warms the chill air. The courtship deepens quietly. Letters exchanged, penned in careful script, discussing literature with undertones of affection. This passage reminds me of our conversation. No declarations. That's for proposals. Modern, you marvel at the patience, like slow cooking a romance. Sensory threads weave through, ink's sharp scent on paper, the rustle of envelopes, heartbeat quickening at his name. It's flirtation as an art form, each step a brushstroke in a portrait of potential union. You leaf through the invitation once more in the quiet of the drawing room. The heavy cardstock smooth under your fingertips, Mrs. Fairchild's elegant copperplate script announcing the musical evening as if it were a royal summons rather than a gathering of neighbors and acquaintances. The afternoon light filters through the lace curtains, casting intricate shadows on the wallpaper's floral motifs, and the air carries the faint, comforting aroma of beeswax from the freshly polished sideboard. Eliza has already laid out your gown for the occasion, a pale lavender silk that whispers of spring despite the persistent London chill outside, and you can hear her humming softly upstairs, preparing the accessories: pearl earrings, a simple fan, gloves of the finest kid leather. Preparations for such events are a ritual in themselves, each step a layer of armor against the evening's subtle judgments, and you feel the familiar mix of anticipation and restraint settling over you like a well-fitted cape. Mother enters with a tray of tea, the china cups steaming gently, their bergamot scent cutting through the room's stillness. The Fairchild's musical evenings are always tasteful, she says, pouring with practiced grace, her dress for the day a subdued grey that speaks of quiet authority. You nod, accepting the cup, the warmth seeping through the porcelain to your palms. I'm sure it will be most enjoyable, you reply, keeping your voice even, though your thoughts dart to Thomas, his presence confirmed in a casual note from a mutual friend, his intentions growing clearer with each orchestrated encounter. It's the Victorian way, courtship as a slow unfurling, like a bud coaxed open by careful sunlight, never rushed lest it wilt under scrutiny. The hours before departure fill with purposeful activity. You practice at the pianoforte, fingers gliding over the keys in a Haydn sonata that's lively yet contained, notes resonating through the house like polite echoes of your inner excitement. Mainstream fact: musical accomplishments were essential for Victorian young ladies, often showcased at soirees to demonstrate refinement and domestic appeal, with piano proficiency ranking high among skills that signaled a suitable wife. Quirky tidbit: some hostesses kept music books with guests' preferred pieces noted, turning performances into personalized flattery, like a 19th century playlist curated for courtship. You play with focus, imagining Thomas's approving nod, but break off when Mother reminds you. Modesty in display, offered to perform only if pressed. Eagerness, after all, could be misread as ambition, a trait better left to concert halls than drawing rooms. Eliza summons you upstairs as the light fades, the gas lamps outside beginning to flicker on, their yellow glow piercing the gathering dusk like watchful eyes. The bath awaits, scented with lavender oil to soothe without overwhelming. Queen Victoria's influence lingers here too, favoring subtlety over the heavy musks of prior eras. You soak briefly, the water's heat easing the day's minor tensions, then emerge to the dressing ritual. Corset first, lace tighter for evening poise, your breath shortening as Eliza pulls, each tug a reminder that beauty demands endurance. Petticoats layer on, rustling softly, followed by the crinoline steel hoops that expand your silhouette into an elegant belle. The lavender gown slips over it all, its bodice fitted to accentuate without revealing, sleeves puffing gently at the shoulders for that touch of femininity. Your hair receives special attention. Eliza twists it into soft waves pinned with combs of mother of pearl, a style that's elaborate yet understated, with no stray curls to suggest carelessness. A light dusting of rice powder evens your complexion, and you add a dab of rosewater to your handkerchief, scent as a whisper, not a shout. Gloves complete the ensemble, hiding hands that might betray nervousness with a tremble. Historians still argue whether these elaborate preparations empowered women through self-presentation or reinforced their role as ornamental figures in a male-centric society, with evidence from diaries showing a mix of pride and exhaustion in the routine. You glance in the mirror. The reflection is poised, a vision of Victorian virtue. But inside, your pulse quickens at the thought of Thomas's gaze, his intentions shimmering like the silk's subtle sheen. Father has the carriage ready by 6, ensuring timely arrival, not early to seem over-eager, not late to imply disregard. The ride through twilight streets passes in a blur of clattering hooves and passing omnibuses, the fog muting the city's clamour to a distant murmur. Modern you muse that it's like prepping for a date with a full production team, but you focus on composure, reviewing mental notes. Speak softly, listen attentively, respond with interest, but not ardour. The Fairchild's home appears, windows aglow with candlelight, strains of a violin already drifting out like an inviting melody. Inside, the drawing room welcomes with warmth. Guests clustered in polite groups, the air scented with fresh flowers, violets and lilies arranged in crystal vases, and the underlying note of polished wood. Fairchild greets you effusively, her gown a rustle of deep crimson, and steers you toward a settee. Thomas materializes nearby, bowing with that familiar poise. Miss Beaumont, how fortunate we meet again. His voice carries a warmth veiled in formality, eyes holding yours a fraction longer than protocol demands. You curtsy, replying about the pleasure of the invitation, feeling the flirtation's undercurrent, like a hidden harmony in the room's music. The evening unfolds. A quartet plays first, strings vibrating with Bach's precision, guests listening with heads tilted in appreciation. Conversation intersperses, talk of recent concerts, enlightening, harmonious. Literature, Byron's passion tempered by moral lessons. Thomas engages your group, addressing Mother first out of respect, then turning to you. Do you favor Mozart's sonatas? They capture such refined emotion. It's a probe, subtle as a bowstroke, sensing your tastes. You respond affirmatively, mentioning a favorite piece, words chosen to reveal just enough interest without boldness. Requests for amateur performances follow. A young lady sings an aria, voice clear and controlled. A gentleman plays violin with vigor but restraint. Mrs. Fairchild turns to you. Miss Beaumont, would you grace us with your talent? You demur once for modesty. I'm hardly accomplished, but acquiesce, approaching the piano with measured steps. The bench creaks softly as you sit, skirts arranging in a lavender cascade, and you begin a Mozart rondo, lively notes dancing under your fingers, the room falling hushed. Thomas stands close, offering to turn pages, his presence a quiet thrill, hand hovering near without touch. Applause ripples politely as you finish, and Thomas murmurs, "Masterfully done, with such grace." The compliment lands like a hidden gift, intentions clear in his tone. Refreshments follow. Tea and petit fours, sweet almond bites crumbling on the tongue. Thomas circulates, but returns, discussing art exhibits with veiled suggestions of future outings. The Academy's collection rewards repeated visits. You sense the deepening pursuit, his words a bridge toward formal interest. Rivals note it too. Miss Hargrove smiles tightly, positioning herself for his attention. But Thomas deflects gracefully, his focus returning to you. The evening winds down around 9:30, guests departing with thanks and curtsies. Farewell last. Until next, Miss Beaumont. Perhaps sooner than expected. His bow lingers, a promise in the air. In the carriage home, Mother whispers. His intentions seem earnest. You agree softly, the musical notes lingering in your mind like his gaze. Home, Eliza undresses you, silk pooling at your feet, and in bed, the sheets cool. You ponder the evening's beckoning. Thomas's actions, page-turning, targeted talk, hinted plans, signal courtship's advance, all within the era's veiled dance. Sleep claims you, dreams harmonizing preparations and intentions into a symphony of possibility. You adjust the sheet music on the pianoforte stand, the ivory keys cool and smooth under your fingertips, as the room's expectant hush settles like a fine layer of dust on the polished wood. The Fairchild's drawing room feels alive with anticipation, candles flickering in their sconces to cast elongated shadows across the assembled guests, gowns in muted jewel tones rustling softly, gentlemen standing at polite attention with hands clasped behind their backs. Mrs. Fairchild's request still echoes. Miss Beaumont, your talent would honor us. Here you demur once more for form's sake. I'm flattered, but surely others are more skilled. But she insists with that maternal smile, her eyes flicking toward Thomas as if orchestrating a duet only she can hear. The rules demand acceptance now, refusing twice borders on rudeness, like declining a dance and leaving a gentleman stranded on the floor. You glide to the bench, your lavender skirts pooling around it like spilled ink, the crinoline's hoops requiring a careful perch on the edge to avoid an unseemly collapse. The wood creaks faintly under your weight, a sound swallowed by the room's collective breath. Thomas steps forward unbidden. May I assist with the pages, Miss Beaumont? His voice is steady, but there's a warmth in it, a subtle undercurrent that sends a small thrill through you. Assistance, like this, is a liberty, positioning him close enough for his sandalwood cologne to mingle with the room's floral notes. You nod graciously. Thank you, Mr. Fairchild. That would be most kind. He stands to your right, sheet music in hand, his presence a quiet anchor amid the scrutiny. The piece you've chosen is a Beethoven bagatelle, playful yet controlled, demanding precision without overt passion, perfect for a Victorian audience that prizes restraint over fireworks. Your fingers hover a moment, drawing in the sensory details. The key's subtle give under pressure, the faint echo of prior notes lingering in the instrument's body, the watchful eyes of guests like Miss Hargrove, whose tight smile suggests she's tallying every potential flaw. You begin, notes cascading lightly at first, building to a gentle crescendo that fills the space without overwhelming it. Mainstream fact: piano performances at Victorian soirees were social currency for young women, often judged not just on skill, but on poise, reflecting the era's belief that music cultivated moral character and domestic harmony. Quirky tidbit: some ladies hid cheat sheets in their fans, tiny notations for tricky passages, turning the accessory into a covert aid, like a musician's teleprompter disguised as elegance. As you play, the room blurs at the edges, but Thomas remains sharp. His page turns are timed impeccably, fingers brushing the paper without a sound, close enough that you sense his steady breathing syncing with the rhythm. A tricky arpeggio approaches, and you navigate it flawlessly, the notes sparkling like crystal under candlelight. Guests lean forward slightly, Mrs. Fairchild nodding approvingly, an elderly uncle tapping his foot discreetly. But it's Thomas's gaze you feel most acutely, warm on your profile like sunlight through a window. Modern, you wants to joke that performing here is like auditioning for a role where the script is look perfect, feel nothing. But you maintain composure, face serene, no swaying or grimacing that might betray unseemly emotion. Midway through, a minor slip, a finger glances the wrong key, producing a faint discord that's more whisper than clang. Your heart stutters, but you recover seamlessly, weaving it into the flow as if intentional, a testament to hours of practice in your drawing room, where the walls absorbed such errors without judgment. The audience doesn't flinch. Victorians prize recovery over perfection, seeing it as evidence of breeding. Thomas doesn't react, but his next page turn feels reassuring, a silent alliance in the performance's dance. Historians still argue whether these musical displays liberated women through creative expression or confined them to performative roles, with accounts from the time showing some found secret joy in the spotlight, while others dreaded the exposure. The final chords resolve, hanging in the air like a polite exhale, and you lift your hands gracefully, allowing silence to applaud first. Then comes the real ovation, gloved hands clapping in measured rhythm, murmurs of brava and most accomplished. You rise with care, curtsying lightly to the room, your crinoline swaying like a bell tolling success. Thomas offers his arm to escort you back, another small liberty, his touch through fabric a fleeting warmth that sends color to your cheeks, hidden under powder, exceptionally rendered, he says softly, for your ears alone, with a depth that captivates. The words land like a hidden melody, flirtation wrapped in praise, and you thank him demurely. Your assistance was invaluable, Mr. Fairchild. Guests converge with compliments, Mrs. Fairchild beaming as if you've passed an unspoken test, an aunt praising your delicate touch. Miss Hargrove approaches with a smile that's all teeth. Such poise, though Beethoven can be so demanding. It's a backhanded nod, scrutiny veiled as admiration, but you respond graciously. Indeed, but rewarding. Thomas lingers nearby, engaging others but glancing your way, his eyes drawing yours in brief, loaded exchanges. Courtship's silent language, where a look says what words cannot. The evening resumes. Another performer takes the piano, a baritone singing a ballad with restrained tenor, the room's atmosphere buoyed by your success. Refreshments circulate, tea in delicate cups, biscuits dusted with sugar that crumbles sweetly on the tongue, and Thomas maneuvers to your side during a lull. Your choice of piece was inspired, he says, addressing the group, but intending for you. Conversation flows, music's role in society, elevating, unifying, favorite composers, Mozart for melody, Bach for structure. His questions probe gently. Do you compose at all, Miss Beaumont? You admit to minor improvisations, modest as required, but his interest feels genuine, peeling back layers in this world of surfaces. Rivals watch. Miss Hargrove inserts herself, praising Thomas's rumored violin skills, but he deflects politely. Merely amateur, nothing to Miss Beaumont's standard. It's a compliment redirected, scrutiny turning favorable, and you feel the room's eyes assessing the dynamic. Whispers, likely blooming later in carriages home. Sensory immersion deepens, the tea's warmth in your cup, the faint rustle of fans cooling flushed faces, the piano's lingering resonance like an aftertaste. As performances wind down, Thomas excuses himself briefly, returning with a small volume from the Fairchild Library, a collection of sonatas. You might find this variation intriguing, he offers, handing it over with a bow. Accepting gifts is tricky. Propriety frowns on it pre-engagement. But as a loan, it's allowable, a subtle bridge. You thank him, fingers brushing the leather cover, feeling the gesture's weight. The clock nears 10, departures signaling like a final cadence. Thomas farewells with a lingering bow. Your performance lingers, Miss Beaumont. In the carriage, Mother notes. Eyes were upon you, favorably. You agree softly, the book's presence in your lap, a tangible echo. Home, Eliza unpinned your hair, curls falling free. And in bed, the evening scrutiny fades to satisfaction. Thomas's attentions, assistance, praise, gift, draw clearer under the performance's spotlight, intentions sharpening like focused notes. Sleep arrives, dreams replaying keys and glances, the musical scrutiny a stepping stone in courtship's melody. You step into the grand hall of the Royal Academy, the air thick with the mingled scents of oil paint and varnish, sunlight streaming through high windows to illuminate canvases that burst with color, stormy seascapes by Turner, serene portraits of ladies in lace, historical scenes frozen in dramatic poise. The exhibition buzzes with fashionable Londoners, gentlemen in top hats murmuring critiques, ladies fanning themselves against the warmth of crowded rooms, their gowns a rainbow of silks, whispering as they move. Thomas walks beside you, his arm not touching, but close enough to guide, while Mother trails a discreet step behind as chaperone, ever present, her eyes sharp as a hawk's. The invitation to this outing came subtly after the musical evening, Thomas calling formally to suggest it, his voice modulated but intent clear. With your parents' permission, of course. Accepting was a step forward in the courtship dance, public yet proper, signaling interest without scandal. The floors creak under your boots, polished wood echoing each measured step, and you pause before a landscape of rolling hills, the brushstrokes so vivid you can almost feel the wind. Thomas comments first, addressing Mother. The light effects are remarkable. Turner captures nature's mood with such mastery. She nods approvingly, and he turns to you. What do you think, Miss Beaumont? Does it evoke any particular feeling? It's a gentle probe, inviting your opinion while keeping the tone impersonal, flirtation hidden in artistic discussion. You respond thoughtfully. The play of shadows suggests transience, yet there's hope in the dawn light. His smile is small but genuine, eyes lingering, a silent affirmation that deepens the connection, all within bounds. Crowds part around you, conversations a low hum, debates on pre-Raphaelite detail, meticulous, almost divine, whispers about the artist's scandals, hushed lest they taint the air. Mainstream fact: the Royal Academy exhibitions in the 1850s were social hubs for the middle and upper classes, where art served as a veil for matchmaking and status display, with attendance signaling cultural refinement essential for good marriages. Quirky tidbit: some visitors carried catalogues raisonnés with hidden notes on eligible bachelors or debutantes spotted near certain paintings, turning galleries into annotated hunting grounds, like a Victorian Tinder with oil on canvas. You move to a portrait gallery, the faces staring back with painted poise, and Thomas points out a study in chiaroscuro. The contrast mirrors life's balances, light and shadow in harmony. His words feel layered, perhaps alluding to your budding rapport, and you agree softly, pulse quickening under your gloves. But the afternoon takes a turn when a figure approaches from the side gallery. Lord Harrington, a man of middle years with a reputation that precedes him like a dark cloud. His coat is impeccably tailored, cravat tied in a flourish that's just shy of ostentatious, but his eyes hold a predatory gleam as they fix on you. Mother stiffens imperceptibly, her fan snapping open in a defensive flick, while Thomas positions himself slightly forward, body language shifting to protective without overt aggression. "Fairchild," Lord Harrington drawls, bowing with exaggerated flair, his voice oily smooth. "And who might this charming companion be?" Thomas's reply is cool, formal. "Lord Harrington, allow me to present Mrs. Beaumont and her daughter, Miss Beaumont." The introduction is unavoidable. Refusing would breach etiquette, but Mother's curtsy is minimal, yours even more so. Lord Harrington's gaze lingers too long, sweeping over your form in a way that feels like an intrusion, far from the respectful appraisals of proper gentlemen. "Enchanted, Miss Beaumont," he says, stepping closer than protocol allows, his cologne overpowering, a cloying musk that clashes with the gallery's clean scents. Such beauty amid these masterpieces. One might say, you outshine them all. The compliment is bold, verging on improper, and you feel heat rise to your cheeks, not from flattery, but discomfort. In Victorian society, unsolicited advances from men of questionable repute can tarnish a lady's name faster than spilled ink on white linen. Rumors spread like wildfire in fog, and association alone invites whispers. You murmur a neutral, "You are too kind, my lord," eyes downcast, adhering to the rule. Deflect without offense, lest it escalate. Thomas intervenes smoothly. We were just admiring the Turners. Perhaps you've seen the new acquisitions? It's a redirection, pulling focus to art. But Harrington ignores it, addressing you directly. Tell me, Miss Beaumont, do you paint? I'd wager your hand creates wonders. The question probes too personally, implying familiarity unearned, and Mother's fan flutters faster, a signal of distress. Historians still argue whether such rakes, like Harrington, represented a rebellion against Victorian prudery or merely exploited its double standards, allowing men freedoms denied to women, with diaries from the era revealing how one ill-timed encounter could derail reputations. Modern you thinks it's like a bad pickup line in a museum, but here, the stakes are your social standing. The encounter draws eyes. Nearby guests glance sidelong, whispers starting like ripples in a pond. Harrington with the Beaumont girl. Bold, isn't he? Thomas's jaw tightens, and he steps in. If you'll excuse us, Lord Harrington, we must view the historical wing before closing. His tone is polite but firm, arm extended to escort you away, Mother falling in step. Harrington bows, undeterred. Until we meet again, Miss Beaumont. Perhaps at the opera? You don't respond, moving on with head high. But the damage lingers like a stain. Even brief attention from a known libertine can fuel gossip mills. In the next gallery, surrounded by epic battle scenes frozen in oil, Thomas speaks low. I apologize for that. Harrington's reputation precedes him. Mother nods tightly. A known cad, sent abroad last season after that affair with the Ellis girl. You feign composure. No harm done. But inside, anxiety churns. Victorian lady's virtue is fragile as porcelain, and proximity to scandal threatens it all. Thomas's protectiveness shines. His intervention is subtle yet decisive, reinforcing his suit without dramatics. The exhibition continues. You discuss a Millet piece, its detail exquisite, but the encounter's shadow tempers the joy. Refreshments in the tea room offer respite. Scones, crumbly and sweet, tea steaming in fine cups. But even here, glances follow, speculation brewing. Thomas steers the conversation to lighter topics. Upcoming balls, your shared interest in poetry. His attentiveness soothes, a counter to Harrington's intrusion, and you feel gratitude bloom, veiled in polite thanks. As closing nears, you depart, Thomas helping you into the carriage with a reassuring squeeze. Gloved, fleeting, homeward, Mother warns. Avoid him henceforth. Reputations are glass. You nod, the day's threat underscoring courtship's perils. One wrong encounter, and the fragile web unravels. But Thomas's actions affirm his character, intentions solidifying like a frame around a masterpiece. Undressing later, Eliza notes you're quiet. Eventful day, miss? You smile faintly, shedding the gown like the afternoon's unease. In bed, the exhibition's images fade. Harrington's shadow eclipsed by Thomas's light. The scandalous brush attest past in the gallery of propriety. You sit in the drawing room the morning after the exhibition, the weak sunlight filtering through the lace curtains to cast delicate patterns on the carpet, much like the intricate web of social signals Thomas wove around you yesterday. His protective stance against Lord Harrington still fresh in your mind, a quiet declaration amid the gallery's crowds. The air carries the faint aroma of fresh ink from Mother's correspondence tray. where she pens notes of thanks for recent calls, her quill scratching rhythmically against paper. Eliza enters with a tray of morning chocolate, steam curling lazily from the cup, its rich cocoa scent a small indulgence in this world of measured pleasures. You sip slowly, the warmth spreading through you, as Mother glances up. Thomas handled that unpleasantness admirably. His character shows. You nod demurely, replying with a soft, "Indeed, most gentlemanly," hiding the flutter his actions stirred, because admitting admiration too freely would unbalance the delicate scales of courtship. The day unfolds in its prescribed rhythm. A light walk in the nearby square, paths lined with blooming crocuses, pushing through the damp earth, their purple heads a rare splash of colour in London's grey palette. Gentlemen pass with tipped hats, but your eyes remain modestly lowered, conversations limited to weather remarks with Mother, drizzly as always, but refreshing after the gallery's stuffiness. Back home, you resume embroidery in the parlour, the needle dipping in and out of linen with a soft thunk, crafting a border of ivy leaves symbolising fidelity, a subtle nod to your thoughts of Thomas. Modern you chuckles that it's like doodling hearts in a notebook, but with more pricked fingers and zero emojis. By afternoon, anticipation builds. Thomas mentioned calling to discuss a matter with Father, words laden like a coded message in a novel. The clock ticks relentlessly, each chime a step closer, and when the doorbell rings at precisely 3, your heart echoes it. Eliza shows him to Father's study, not the drawing room, confirming the gravity. Gentlemen seek private audiences for business, or in this case, intentions. You and Mother wait in the parlour, her knitting needles clicking steadily, yours idle in your lap as you feign reading a volume of sermons, uplifting prose that's about as exciting as watching fog roll in. Sensory details anchor the weight, the faint creak of floorboards overhead from the study, the bitter edge of your now cold chocolate, the prickle of nervousness under your corset. Minutes stretch like taffy, your mind replaying yesterday. Thomas's firm redirection of Harrington, his hand steady as he helped you into the carriage, intentions crystallizing like sugar in tea. Mainstream fact. In Victorian England, a gentleman seeking to court formally first obtained the father's permission, a practice rooted in patriarchal control, where daughters were seen as family assets to be negotiated. Quirky tidbit. Some suitors sent intent letters beforehand, sealed with wax impressions of family crests, turning proposals into heraldic paperwork, like a medieval merger with romantic footnotes. You strain to hear voices from the study, muffled tones, a low chuckle from Father, wondering if Thomas stumbles over words as you might, his usual poise tested in this pivotal moment. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, but the clock insists is 20 minutes, footsteps descend. Father enters first, his expression pleased but composed, Thomas following with a hint of colour in his cheeks, nerves showing through his polished facade, endearing in this era of masks. "Eleanor," Father says, gesturing for privacy, "Mr. Fairchild wishes to speak with you. We'll be in the morning room." Mother rises, her skirt swishing, and they withdraw, leaving the door ajar. Chaperoned solitude, the closest to a lone Victorian propriety allows. Your heart pounds like a timpani in a symphony, but you stand gracefully, smoothing your day dress, the fabric's wool warm under your palms. Thomas approaches the fireplace, the mantel clock ticking between you like a metronome for composure. He clears his throat, voice steady but softer. Miss Beaumont, Eleanor, with your permission, I've spoken to your father. He grants me leave to address you formally. The words hang, formal yet intimate, and you nod, breath-catching. You have it, Mr. Fairchild. He steps closer, maintaining respectful distance, his eyes meeting yours with earnest depth. These past weeks have shown me your grace, intelligence, and kind heart. I hold you in the highest esteem and affection. Would you do me the honor of allowing me to court you officially? It's direct yet veiled. No flowery declarations. Victorians distrust passion's fire, preferring steady embers. You pause, as etiquette demands. Immediate acceptance might seem eager, unbecoming, but your answer forms swiftly. I would be honored, Mr. Fairchild. Thomas. His face lights, restraint cracking to reveal joy, a rare glimpse behind the facade. You've made me the happiest man, Eleanor. He extends his hand, and you place yours in it, the touch through gloves electric, a promise sealed in fabric. Historians still argue whether these formal permissions empowered families through veto power or stifled individual choice, with letters from the time revealing secret elopements as rebellions against the system. Modern you jokes, it's like asking for a job reference before dating. But here, it's the gateway to deeper bonds. The moment lingers, hands clasped longer than strictly proper, until footsteps signal your parents' return. Father beams. Excellent news. Congratulations. Mother embraces you briefly, affection rare but fitting now, and toasts are proposed with sherry from the decanter, amber liquid glowing in crystal glasses, its sharp bite matching the day's thrill. Thomas stays for tea, conversation turning practical, outings planned, chaperoned naturally, family dinners to align alliances. His gaze finds yours often, intentions now open, like a book turned to its dedication page. The call ends at 15 minutes. Rules persist even in joy, and Thomas bows farewell. Until tomorrow, Eleanor. Perhaps a walk in the park? You agree softly, the promise warming you as he departs. Mother turns beaming. A fine match. The Fairchilds are solid. You nod, excitement bubbling under poise. The formal step a bridge crossed. Evening brings dinner. Family toasting your news subtly. Edmund teasing lightly. Fairchild's a lucky chap. Laughter rings, restrained but genuine. Undressing, Eliza whispers congratulations, her knowing smile reflecting the servant's grapevine. In bed, sheets crisp and cool, you replay the scene. Thomas's words, the handclasp, intentions formalized, like a contract signed in affection. It's thrilling, this official courtship. Outings, letters, deepening ties, all under watchful eyes. Sleep comes, dreams weaving permissions and promises into a tapestry of future days. The following afternoon, Thomas arrives for the promised walk, hat in hand, bowing to Mother, who joins as chaperone. The park paths wind through manicured lawns, air fresh with recent rain, puddles reflecting scudding clouds. Conversation flows, books shared, Wordsworth's nature poems, apt for the setting. Interests aligned, music, art, quiet charities. Thomas's questions delve gently. What dreams do you hold, Eleanor? You speak of a harmonious home, veiled hopes of partnership, his responses echoing mutual respect. A chance meeting with acquaintances tests the new status. Nods exchanged, whispers likely starting. Fairchild courting Beaumont, suitable pair. Thomas handles it with grace, intentions shining in his attentiveness, offering his arm over uneven ground. Gloved touch a subtle claim. Mother trails, approving silently. The walk ends at tea in a pavilion, scones flaky and jam tart, talk turning lighter, jokes about London's fog hiding secrets. His laugh, warm as sunlight breaking through. Homeward, mother praises. He seeks your thoughts, rare quality. You agree, the formal intentions blooming into daily rhythms. Letters arrive next day, Thomas's script neat. Discussions of poetry with undertones of esteem. You reply similarly, ink flowing with careful affection. Intentions clear, the courtship advances. Dinners, exhibitions, each step a formal yet heartfelt progression. Sensory joys abound, parchment's texture, park's earthy scent, his voice's timbre. It's a dance formalized, intentions, the music guiding forward. You pace the drawing room floor subtly, your slippers whispering against the Persian rug that's worn just enough to feel like home underfoot. As the clock on the mantel strikes 3 with a chime that echoes like a gentle nudge from fate itself. The air hangs heavy with the scent of fresh-baked scones wafting from the tea tray Eliza set out moments ago, their buttery warmth mingling with the faint lavender from your handkerchief, a small armor against the nerves bubbling inside. Thomas's call is imminent. His note this morning requested a private audience with father first, then you. Words phrased with that careful formality that masks the heart's true rhythm. Mother sits nearby, her knitting needles clicking in a steady cadence that's meant to soothe, but only amplifies the weight. Each stitch a countdown to the moment that's been building like a crescendo in one of your piano pieces. Footsteps finally descend the stairs, measured, deliberate, and father enters, his face a mask of pleased restraint, the kind Victorian men wear when sealing deals in boardrooms or betrothals in parlours. Thomas follows, hat in hand, his coat impeccably brushed, but there's a subtle flush to his cheeks, a crack in the poise that makes him seem more human, less like the composed suitor from park walks and exhibitions. Eleanor, father says, gesturing with a nod. Mr. Fairchild has something to discuss. We'll give you a moment, but the door stays open. Mother rises gracefully, her skirts swishing like a curtain falling on one act to reveal another, and they retreat to the adjacent room, close enough to chaperone without intruding, that invisible leash of propriety ever present. The door ajar lets in a sliver of hallway light, casting a golden stripe across the floorboards, and Thomas stands by the fireplace, the embers crackling softly behind him like they're whispering encouragement. He clears his throat, voice low and earnest. Eleanor, with your father's blessing, I must speak from the heart. You nod, perched on the edge of the settee, crinoline demanding that forward lean again, turning every seat into a perch, and meet his gaze, your hands folded in your lap to hide the slight tremble. Modern, you wants to joke that this feels like popping the question in a period drama where the corset steals the show, but you hold steady, breath shallow under the boning's grip. He steps closer, maintaining that respectful foot of space, his eyes locking onto yours with an intensity that's rare in this world of averted glances and veiled words. These past weeks, Your grace at the piano, your insights at the exhibition, the quiet strength you showed with that intruder have deepened my admiration beyond measure. You possess a kindness and intelligence that illuminate every room. I hold you in the highest regard, and my affection has grown into something profound. The words tumble out measured, like poetry recited from memory, but there's a vulnerability in his tone, a slight hitch that betrays the man behind the gentleman. Mainstream fact: Victorian proposals often followed a scripted formality, with men seeking paternal approval first, reflecting the era's view of marriage as a family alliance, rather than just a romantic union, complete with settlements negotiating dowries and inheritances. Quirky tidbit: some suitors hid proposal rings in everyday objects like books or gloves, turning the moment into a treasure hunt. Flirtation's final puzzle, before the yes. Your heart races, a drumbeat against the corset's confines, and you feel the room's warmth intensify, the fire's glow mirroring the flush creeping up your neck. Historians still argue whether these restrained proposals fostered lasting partnerships through mutual respect or stifled genuine emotion, leading to mismatched unions built on duty rather than desire, with diaries revealing a spectrum from quiet joy to resigned acceptance. Thomas continues, dropping to one knee, a gesture that's dramatic yet contained, his hand extending a small velvet box. Eleanor Beaumont, will you do me the great honor of becoming my wife? The ring inside gleams, a sapphire set in gold, family heirloom with a history whispered in its facets, blue as the rare clear skies over London. Time stretches, etiquette demanding a pause for consideration. Immediate eagerness might seem unbecoming, like gulping tea instead of sipping, but your mind whirls with sensory flashes. The box's soft texture under your fingers as you accept it, the metal's cool weight sliding onto your finger, fitting perfectly as if destined. Emotion swells, a tide against the dam of decorum. Tears prick your eyes, but you blink them back. Proper ladies don't weep dramatically, lest it seem hysterical. Thomas, you say, voice steady despite the inner storm. I am deeply honored. Yes, I will. The words escape soft, balanced, joy tempered with poise, like a melody played piano rather than forte. His face transforms, restraint cracking into a smile that's boyish, unguarded, lighting the room brighter than any candle. He rises, taking your hand in his. Gloves off now, skin to skin in this sanctioned moment. His palm warm and firm, a touch that's electric after months of distance. You've made me the happiest of men, Eleanor. The clasp lingers, thumbs brushing in a circle. That's as intimate as a kiss in this restrained world, sending shivers up your arm. Modern you thinks it's like finally hitting play after endless buffering. But you savor it, the proposal's weight settling like a cherished locket around your neck. Footsteps signal the return. Father and mother re-enter, their timing impeccable, faces alight with approval. Well, father asks, though he knows. Thomas announces formally, Miss Beaumont has accepted. Hugs are brief. Mother's arms around you in a rare embrace, the scent of her rosewater enveloping like comfort, and toasts follow with sherry poured into crystal glasses, the liquid's amber glow matching the fire's embers. Conversation turns practical. Wedding dates, 3 months hence, proper interval. Settlements. Father and Thomas to discuss finances. Your dowry a quiet assurance of security. You sit composed, ring catching the light with each gesture, a visible emblem of your new status. Tea arrives. Eliza bearing scones and clotted cream, her eyes twinkling with knowing congratulations. And the mood lightens. Thomas sits nearer now, propriety allowing this shift, his knee almost brushing yours under the tablecloth. Talk flows. The church, St. Mary's, family tradition, the trousseau, gowns and linens to prepare, each stitch a step toward your shared home. His gaze finds yours often, affection unveiled slightly, like a curtain parted just enough for sunlight. You respond in kind, words warm but measured, balancing the joy that threatens to overflow. Victorians view passion suspiciously, favoring steady regard over fireworks. As tea ends, Thomas rises reluctantly. I must take my leave, but tomorrow, perhaps a drive in the park. You agree, the promise sweet as the jam on your scone. He bows over your hand, lips brushing the knuckles in a chaste kiss, aloud now, electric still, and departs, the door clicking shut behind him like a chapter's end. Mother turns beaming. A splendid match, practical and heartfelt. You nod, fingering the ring, its facets cool under your touch. Emotion a quiet river beneath the surface. The evening brings a family dinner, news shared with Edmund, who teases lightly. Fairchild snagged the prize. Lucky dog. Laughter rings restrained. Toasts with claret that warms your throat. Undressing later, Eliza admires the ring. Beautiful, miss. Fits like it was made for you. In bed, sheets crisp, you replay the proposal. Thomas's knee bent, words earnest, hand clasp sealing it. Balancing emotion with decorum feels like walking a tightrope, joy reined in but profound. Sleep comes, dreams weaving rings and vows into a future's tapestry, the moment's balance, a foundation for what's ahead. Days follow in a whirlwind, announcements in papers, black ink proclaiming your engagement like a public seal. Calls pour in, congratulations exchanged over tea, your ring admired with polite envy. Thomas visits daily, chaperoned outings deepening bonds. Park drives, where horses clip-clop over paths. Talk turning personal. Childhood tales, shared dreams of home and family. His hand squeezes yours in the carriage, gloves off in privacy's sliver. Touch a promise. A ball celebrates. You in ivory silk. Thomas leading the first waltz, his arm firm around your waist. Decorum allowing this closeness now. Whispers follow. Ideal pair. Her poise, his steadiness. You balance giddiness with grace, steps synchronized like your hearts. Modern you jokes, it's like a prom with petticoats, but the emotion's real. Proposals yes echoing in every twirl. The balance holds, joy in restraint, love in layers. Sensory joys abound. Rings wait, his scent during dances. Tea's warmth post-proposal. It's Victorian romance, emotion tempered, but deep as the Thames. You stand before the mirror in your childhood bedroom one final time. The morning light of your wedding day, filtering softly through the lace curtains to bathe the room in a gentle glow, as Eliza fastens the last pearl button on your gown. Pure white silk, cascading in elegant folds, the train pooling like spilled moonlight on the floorboards, worn smooth from years of quiet steps. The air hums with the faint scent of orange blossoms from your bouquet, tied with ribbons that match the veil draped over your upswept hair, each curl pinned with care to frame your face in soft perfection. Mother enters, her dress a subdued ivory, eyes misty but composed. You look every inch the bride, Eleanor. She adjusts your veil, fingers lingering in a rare touch of tenderness, the rules allowing this emotional breach on such a day. Though tears are dabbed discreetly with a lace handkerchief, the house stirs below, servants whispering congratulations as they polish silver for the breakfast to come. Father pacing the hall in his morning coat, buttonhole flower freshly pinned like a badge of paternal pride. Breakfast is light, nerves curbing appetites, tea steaming in china cups, toast points with honey that sticks sweetly to your fingers, the clink of cutlery a nervous underscore to the morning's hush. Edmund teases gently, "Ready to trade us for Fairchild, sis?" But his hug is warm, breaking decorum just enough for family. Mother reminds you of the vows. Love, honor, obey. Simple words, profound duties. You nod, the ring on your finger, Thomas's sapphire, catching the light, a constant reminder of the proposal's balanced joy. Emotion reigned but real. The carriage arrives, horses stamping impatiently in the fog-shrouded street, their harnesses jingling like distant bells. Father helps you in, his hand steady on yours. Proud of you, girl. The ride to St. Mary's Church passes in a blur of cobblestones and passing faces. Vendors pausing to watch the bridal procession, children waving from sidewalks, the city alive with its usual clamor, muted by the day's significance. Inside the church, pews fill with guests in finery, silks rustling, top hats perched on knees, the air thick with the scent of lilies banked along the altar, their white petals echoing your gown. The organ swells, notes vibrating through the stone walls like a heartbeat amplified, and you walk the aisle on Father's arm, each step measured, veil blurring the faces turned your way. Thomas waits at the altar, his morning suit sharp and dark, face composed, but eyes alight with that unguarded warmth from the proposal, a spark that cuts through the formality. The vicar intones the vows, words ancient and binding. Do you, Eleanor, take Thomas to be your husband? You speak clearly. I do. Voice steady despite the inner whirl. Love balanced with duty, joy with solemnity. Rings exchange, his gold band warm from his pocket, slipping onto your finger beside the sapphire. A perfect fit, symbolizing the union's harmony. The kiss is chaste, a brush of lips on cheek, propriety holding even here, but electric, promising more in privacy's veil. Pronounced man and wife, you turn to face the congregation, arm in Thomas's now, the first public claim. Applause ripples politely, hats raised in salute, and you process out to rice thrown like confetti, grains pattering on your veil like gentle rain. The wedding breakfast awaits at home, tables laden with delicacies, poached salmon glistening pink, aspics quivering in crystal molds, cakes tiered high with icing that gleams like fresh snow. Toasts flow with champagne, fizzing in flutes, bubbles rising like your spirits. Father praising Thomas's steadiness, Edmund joking about losing a sister, gaining a brother. You sit beside your husband, the word new and thrilling, his hand brushing yours under the tablecloth, a subtle touch that's now allowed, sending warmth up your arm. Guests mingle post-meal, aunts admiring your trousseau displayed in the parlor, gowns folded in tissue, linens embroidered with your new initials, each item a step into married life. Whispers of approval circulate. Lovely match. Her poise, his prospects. Thomas stands close, murmuring, "Happy, my dear." You nod, balancing the swell of emotion with a soft smile. Immensely. The afternoon wanes, and you change into a traveling suit, smart wool in dove grey, bonnet tied with ribbons, for the honeymoon journey to the Fairchild country estate in Sussex. Farewells are emotional, but restrained. Mother's embrace tighter than usual, father's handshake firm with Thomas. Take care of her. Edmund's wink. Don't be strangers. The carriage pulls away, horses' hooves clipping on cobblestones, London fading behind in a haze of fog and well-wishes. Thomas sits beside you, alone at last, though the driver's presence above maintains a veneer of chaperone. His hand finds yours, fingers intertwining without gloves, skin to skin in this new freedom, the touch sending shivers of possibility. "Mrs. Fairchild," he says, voice low and warm, tasting the title like fine wine. You laugh softly. It suits. Talk flows freely now. Dreams of your home, a townhouse in Belgravia with rooms to fill with laughter and perhaps children, balanced with duties. His business, your household management. The countryside unfolds, rolling hills greening under spring sun, sheep dotting fields like cotton puffs, the air freshening from city smoke to earthy loam. The estate appears at dusk, a handsome manor of red brick and ivy, windows glowing welcomingly against the twilight. Servants line the drive, curtsying as Thomas helps you down, his hands at your waist lingering a beat longer, propriety bending in privacy's realm. Inside, the hall smells of beeswax and fresh flowers, roses in vases, their petals velvet soft, and a light supper awaits. Cold meats, cheeses sharp on the tongue, wine ruby in goblets. Evening deepens. Eliza's counterpart here undresses you into a nightgown of fine lawn, embroidered at the cuffs, and withdraws with a curtsy. "Congratulations, Mum." Alone with Thomas in your suite, the fire crackles in the grate, casting flickering light on the four-poster bed and the heavy drapes. He approaches gently, voice soft. "No rush, my love. We have time." The word love hangs new and tender, emotion balanced with respect as he takes your hand. The night unfolds in discoveries, touches tentative at first, building to intimacy that's profound in its restraint, bodies learning each other like a new language spoken in whispers. Morning brings birdsong through open windows, fresh air carrying dew's clean scent, and breakfast in bed, tea steaming, eggs poached golden, Thomas beside you in a robe, his smile sleepy and content. Days blend in honeymoon bliss. Walks in gardens blooming with daffodils nodding yellow heads. Picnics by streams gurgling over pebbles. Talk deepening. His ambitions, your hopes, balanced in partnership. Mainstream fact: Victorian honeymoons often lasted weeks in secluded estates, allowing couples privacy after chaperoned courtships, a transition from restraint to marital freedoms within societal bounds. Quirky tidbit: some brides carried honeymoon diaries with coded entries for intimate details, like veiled botanical references, roses for passion, ferns for sincerity, turning personal moments into floral cryptography. Historians still argue whether these unions, built on formal foundations, yielded happier lives through stability or stifled spontaneity that led to quiet regrets, with letters showing a mix of fulfillment and adaptation. You embrace the new rules, managing servants with firm kindness, social calls as Mrs. Fairchild, balancing wifehood with self. Thomas's attentiveness shines, gifts of books, shared evenings by firelight reading aloud, voices intertwining like vines. The honeymoon ends, London calling with its fog and duties, but your bond strengthens. Dinners hosted, balls attended arm in arm, life a tapestry of shared joys and challenges. Emotion balanced with decorum becomes your strength, love deepening in quiet moments, a hand squeeze during opera, a whispered darling at day's end. New beginnings unfold, a home filled with laughter, perhaps a child's cry echoing soon, rules evolving into rhythms of your own making. As the days blend into peaceful nights, you find comfort in the gentle routine, the world outside fading softly like twilight over the hills. Let your thoughts drift now, easing into rest, the stories of Victorian propriety dissolving into calm whispers. Breathe deeply, feel the weight lift, and allow sleep to wrap you in its soothing embrace. Dreams gentle and unhurried, carrying you through the quiet hours until morning's light returns. Sweet dreams await, soft and serene, as the echoes of the past fade away.